Hello friends, and welcome to your math lesson for Tuesday, April 7th, which is a problem-solving strategy for using logical reasoning. So logical reasoning is when you look at your word problem and you see how you can recognize things in the problem to solve it in a very systematic way. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be reading a word problem, then we're going to be looking at a composite two-dimensional shape and seeing how we can fill in the missing parts of this shape with two-dimensional shapes that are going to fit inside of the missing parts. This is very similar to what we were doing with learning about composite shapes, except this time we have a word problem attached to it. So we're going to do an example together first. You're going to need page 673 in your math book, and we're going to read the word problem here at the top. They already have our word problem underlined and circled. So our steps here for solving word problems are all spelled out for us again. So our first step is to underline the information that we know and to circle what we are trying to find. So here's our word problem. It says, Anna made the shape below with 9 blocks. What 4 blocks are missing? So in this word problem, they tell us how many shapes we should have in all to make up this composite shape. So it says that we have 4 blocks that are missing, which means that there are already 5 blocks in this shape that we need to leave where they are. We cannot move them. So what we need to do is we need to figure out what shapes are missing. So I'm just going to scooch my page down just a little bit more so we can see that full shape now. So step 2 is our plan. How are we going to solve this problem? Well, today we are doing logical reasoning. So that is how we are going to solve our problem, figuring out what shapes are missing from our composite shape to make it complete. Step number 3 is to solve this problem. So they have already dashed some lines here for us to give us the composite shapes that are missing in this shape. So all we're going to do is trace over the shapes that they have put in here. So it says that there are 4 shapes that are missing. So we have a triangle here that is flipped upside down as one of our other missing shapes. We also have a trapezoid that is next to this triangle. Okay, so now you can see here is our triangle and here is our trapezoid. And then we have 2 squares here. Now, if you looked at this section and you were looking at this entire section that I'm moving my cursor around here, this looks like a different shape that we've learned about. This actually looks like a rectangle, but we have to go back up to our word problem. It says that there are 4 blocks that are missing. So that's why we can't just put a rectangle into that missing spot, because we need to fill in that entire missing section with 4 shapes instead of 3. If we had used a rectangle, we would only have 3 shapes filling it in. So we have to make sure that we're really paying attention to the directions in our word problem about how many shapes that we need to fill in the missing shapes in our composite shape. So there is step number 3. Step number 4 is our check. Is my answer reasonable? Meaning, did we solve this question correctly? So we need to find 4 blocks that are going to fit inside this composite shape. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So yes, our answer is reasonable. We used 4 shapes to fill in the missing spot in this composite shape. So now what we're going to do is we are going to flip to the next page and we are going to solve a couple of more together before I give you some time to work on your own. Okay, here is our next example that we're going to do together. So our first step, we need to underline what we know and circle what we are trying to find. So let's read the word problem together. It says, Angel has 6 pattern blocks. So I'm going to underline this first sentence. He makes the shape below. So we're going to underline the second sentence. 2 pattern blocks are missing. So again, we're going to underline this sentence. What two blocks are missing? So we're going to circle this last sentence. Remember, the sentence that we're circling is always the sentence that has the question mark because that's telling us what we are trying to find in this word problem. So let's read it one more time. Angel has 6 pattern blocks. He makes the shape below. 2 pattern blocks are missing. What 2 blocks are missing? So now let me scroll my page down here so we can look at this shape. So we're going to use logical reasoning to fill in our missing blanks for this composite shape. So if we look at our shape here, we have 2 squares, we have 1 parallelogram, and then we have a trapezoid. So we need 2 shapes that are going to fill in this blank space here to make our composite shape complete. So if we look at this shape, we can kind of see how there are 2 shapes that I can think of anyway, 2 two-dimensional shapes that would fit in this blank. So I'm going to draw one line here, and that's all that I need to draw to make our 2 shapes. So now the shapes that I made another parallelogram or diamond on the other side, the opposite side of the first one that we have, and then I also have another trapezoid. This one's flipped upside down though. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and if we go back up to our word problem, it tells us that we had 6 pattern blocks here. So we use the correct number of blocks in this composite shape to complete it. We should have 6. They had 4, and then we had to fill in the 2. So that is our check. Is my answer reasonable? Yes. We filled in the blanks with 2 shapes that would fit, a trapezoid and another parallelogram to complete this composite shape. Okay, now we're going to have 2 examples that you're going to do on your own. I'm going to read through these word problems with you and we'll underline and circle together, and then I will give you some time to work before we go over the answers. So here's number 1. Number 1 says, Cadence made the shape below using only trapezoids and triangles. So we're going to underline this first sentence. So this word problem is being very specific with the shapes that they want us to use. You can only use trapezoids and triangles to solve this question. The next sentence, how many blocks are missing? So we need to circle this sentence. This sentence is telling us what we are trying to find. We're trying to find how many blocks are missing. So when you fill in your answers for this question, they're actually telling you how many trapezoids are in the question. If you look down here, they're telling you that there should be 3 trapezoids. What you need to find is how many triangles are in this question. So they've already given you 1 trapezoid here, so you need to draw in 2 more trapezoids to complete this question, and then you have to draw in the rest of the triangles that are going to fit in this question. So there is number 1. Let me push my page down a little bit so we can see all of number 2. There we go. So number 2 says, Kendall made the shape below using triangle blocks. How many triangles are missing? So this first sentence we are going to underline. And again, it's being specific about what shape they want you to use. You can't use any other shape besides a triangle. And then what we're trying to find, how many triangles are missing. So you're going to only use triangles to fill in the blanks for this one. Okay, here are your directions for the next 3 problems on the next page, page 676. So for number 3, it says, Lynn covers this pattern block with the same 6 pattern blocks. What blocks did she use? So again, I'm going to underline my first sentence telling us what we know. We know that Lynn covered this pattern block with the same 6 pattern blocks. And then our last sentence, what blocks did she use? So you're going to have to figure out what block you can use to fill in this hexagon using the exact same shape for every single one that you're putting in there. So on the line, you're going to write down the name of the shape that you used. And then inside this hexagon, you need to draw where these shapes go inside the hexagon. Number 4 says, Mary put 2 triangles together to make a new shape. How many sides does the new shape have? So when you put these 2 triangles together, you're going to count up the sides that are only along the outside of the new shape. You're not going to count the sides that are touching on the inside. You have to pretend that those 2 triangles are now taped together and those sides that are in the middle don't exist anymore, that they got melted together. Okay, so you're only counting the shapes that are around the outside of your new shape that you're making. And then our last question, number 5, says Kevin made a shape. Kieran took 3 blocks away. Draw lines to show what 3 blocks are missing. So again, you're going to use the strategy that we just talked about, logical reasoning. Look at the blank section here. There are 3 shapes that are missing here. So when I'm looking at this, I could maybe see 2 larger shapes that could fit there, but that's not what they're asking you. They're asking you to put in 3 of those shapes. So make sure that you are really paying attention to what 3 shapes could fit inside of those blanks. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to pause your video here before you move on. I want to give you time to do those 5 questions before you go on to the next section, and we're going to go over the answers to all 5 of these questions. So make sure that you have all of these questions complete before you go on to the next section. Okay, we are back at number 1 and we are ready to go over our answers. So for number 1, it said Cadence made the shape below using only trapezoids and triangles. How many blocks are missing? So they told us that there were 3 trapezoids in this question. So I am going to make another trapezoid here. So you can see that there is one there. And then I'm going to make another trapezoid here. So there are my 3 trapezoids for this question. Now we need to add in our triangles. Those are the only shapes that are missing here. So make sure that you try and do your lines as straight as possible. They're not going to be perfect since we don't have pattern blocks to use on our page here. So just do the best that you can. So I'm going to make one triangle going this way, upside down. Then I'm going to make another triangle going right side up. And then I'm going to make another one here going right side up. And then one there. So as you can see, my lines aren't all even because I'm doing it on my computer, and I don't expect yours to be all even either. But you get the idea of what we are looking for. So let's count up our triangles to see how many triangles we have. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 9 triangles that fit inside of this composite shape. Okay, let's look at number 2. Let me push my page up a little bit. So for number 2, we had to find out how many triangles were missing from this composite shape. So we can only use triangles for this one. So I'm going to start here by making a slant line down and another slant line up. So now we have 1, 2, 3 triangles that we're missing from this composite shape. Okay. Now we're going to go on to the next page and we'll go over 3, 4, and 5. Okay, here is number 3. Number 3, you had to use the same 6 pattern blocks to fill in this hexagon. So the shape that you should have used is the triangle. So if you look here, I am just filling in as best as I can. My lines aren't going to be perfect, but I'm putting in 6 triangles here. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So on the line, you're going to write triangle. I'm not going to write it right now because it takes me too long to write on my computer. But you're going to write the word triangle on the line here. Okay, number 4 says Mary put 2 triangles together to make a new shape. How many sides does the new shape have? So I'm actually going to draw down here these 2 triangles together because they have them separate up here, but we need them together. So here's our triangle that is right side up, and here is our triangle that is upside down, putting them together. So you can see when we put them together, it kind of makes like a parallelogram shape. So we only need the sides that are on the outside. So here we have 1 side, 2, 3, 4. So when we put these 2 triangles together, our shape now has 4 sides. Okay, now let's look at number 5. Number 5 says that Kevin made a shape and that Kieran took 3 blocks away. So we have to draw lines to show what 3 blocks are missing. So I said before when we were going over the directions that I could see 2 shapes that would fit here. So if we only needed 2, we could have done a trapezoid and a square here, but we need 3 shapes. So I'm still going to put the square here. And then we can't leave this trapezoid because that's only 2 shapes. We need 3. So I'm actually going to make a triangle here, which will then also make a parallelogram or a diamond here. So this shape actually has a mirror image to it. We have a triangle and a parallelogram here, and then we have a parallelogram and a triangle there. So there are our 3 missing shapes: parallelogram, triangle, and square. For extra practice, you could do the My Homework page, page 677 and 678 in your math workbook. Remember, you can go back and replay this video if you need to. Remember, you can pause it if you need more time to work. And if you have any questions, you can have your parents send me an email. And we will see you again tomorrow for our last math lesson before Easter break. Have a great day, friends. Bye.